decades, and this is just the first step on the way. One of my ultimate dreams is to produce a movie about our sacred world of beauty. But this is a start. This is a baby step. And so now I'm ready. Whenever you are, Joe. Yes.
I'm recording.
Sit, Max. For those short pictures? For those pictures taken by you?
Oh my. I did all the photography. So, and then these three things here are actually, this, and this also are videos I did. So I didn't do that. I didn't do that one over
You
there.
didn't do that one? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Kind of curious as to what that actually is now.
Well, you know, what can I
The wider
say?
the better.
Yeah, the louder the better.
First
Yeah.
kiss.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we'll let that ride tonight. But let's leave. We can leave the net up because I'll show you my website too later. But from the time I was a very young child, I had a sensitivity to the beauty of the sky. When I was a teenager, one of my grandmas used to say that I always talked about the thunder cloud. That's thunder, F-U-N-D-E-R. And it used to be magical for me to just lay on my back in the yard and watch the patterns of clouds go overhead and feel the energy. I grew up where there were 4 seasons, like you did, and you did, and you in the room did. And so every season brought a certain, weather is magic to me. And when I was a little child, like 5 years old, I was chanting to the wind. And I was meditating on tornadoes, even though where I lived, they didn't exist. We never heard of tornadoes, but somehow I knew about them. And I once got into trouble. We lived by a highway, and I decided it'd be pretty cool to start creating hailstorms. Now, you taught me about hail at age 6. And I started throwing rocks down to the cars below, It was cool. It was my hailstorm. And eventually I got put to a screeching halt because somebody stopped their car, pulled over, and banged on my parents' door and said, "Your son's throwing rocks at our cars down here." So there went my hailstorms. But it didn't stop my love of the weather. And in fact, I used to hear angels, clear till I was in my 30s. In fact, later even, I heard the angels singing in the clouds. And so the sky has been a home for me. A home away from home, actually. Some people want to live by the mountains, some people want to live so-and-so. To me, I have to live where there's thunderstorms. It's my very favorite weather. So I was off kind of in my own world. I didn't have any other friends at that time who was into that stuff. And then, to make a long story short, we moved to a very materialistic and harsh suburb. And the values in that suburb were the exact opposite of mine. And so, for 3 years, from grades 3 through grade 6, that's 4 years, I had no friends. Not one person understood me. No one could wrap their mind around someone who was really deeply into the sky, loved nature. And I was about 30 years ahead of my time in terms of environmental education because I collected rocks, I collected butterflies, I raised butterflies. I was really into getting my hands in things and doing things. My parents bought me a chemistry set. I had a little biology set, so I used to love to go and look at little specimens of water from our little creeks, under a microscope, and blood, and so on and so forth. So I was all into that stuff. My biggest passion was weather. I started keeping records at age 9. But no, I was teased. I mean, people used to say, "Oh, Levine, what's the weather?" And so, back in the days I grew up, you had to fend for yourself. They didn't recognize gifted children, and I was a gifted child. If you were bullied, you had to fend for yourself. There was no resources to protect you. And so I had to deal with all that. But I never let that stop me from being true to my dream. I always stayed true to my dream. Finally, in grade 7, we merged, the elementaries merged with a larger junior high, and I had 2 friends in grade 7. One of them was talked out of being my friend by his friends because they thought my nose was too big to qualify me for friendship. So he quit the friendship, so I was down to 1 friend. In grade 8, I developed another friend, and so at least I had a couple friends in junior high. But I never let that stop my vision either. I never let that stop my dream either. So fortunately, I grew up back in the late 60s is when the media was intrigued by the hippie movement. And so I was lucky because I had a cousin who was living in in the East Coast Mecca for the hippies, which was Greenwich Village, New York. The other was San Francisco, and she lived in New York. So yeah, just on a whim, they said, "Well, how would you like to stay in New York with your other cousin and spend a day with Cousin Barbara?" And I said, "Sure." I didn't know anything about it. I said, "Okay." So I took a bus to New York, and that's what we did back then. We had buses, and we took, and I had a whole new world unfold before me, and I saw things that I never knew existed, like people actually saying hi to strangers. We sat in a restaurant in the middle of New York, and it was a Japanese style, so the benches were low. And they had Japanese lanterns strung out. And my cousin and I were sitting eating some chow, and all of a sudden this woman comes over, and she goes, "Do you mind if I talk with you?" And my cousin goes, Sure, come on, sit down." So this total stranger is opening up to us about her relationships, and I'm like, wow, people do this? This is awesome. I've never, because where I grew up, you dare say hi to strangers. And so before all that happened, my cousin said, well, just walk around. I'm going to go hang out somewhere else, walk around, meet people. So I went into a carrot juice bar, and there was a bar there, and I sat at the counter with a bunch of men about my dad's age, probably in their 50s. And Vietnam was going on, and there was a lot of talk about Vietnam. And everybody in that bar was against Vietnam. And I grew up based on fear. I grew up to believe that everything that began with communists was bad, and I wasn't as bad as many of the things you heard on TV, on radio, and on the telephone, just recorded messages. But I believe the Vietnam War at that point was important and right. We had to kill them commies. So one of the guys my dad's age looked at me and he said, son, have you ever heard of napalm? I said, no, what's that? So he proceeded to tell me about napalm. I'm like, really?
Terrible.
Wow! So I went back to Pittsburgh where I was growing up with a whole new world that had opened before me, and that planted a seed. And this is how dreams can happen, you know, planted a seed. I identified immediately with the hippie movement. No, not the drugs, but I identified with the principles of world peace, of universal love, of honoring our environment, and cool music. I love that too. And awesome psychedelic art. I love that too. But the spiritual things, that's planted a dream in me. So when I went to high school, and I started high school the next year, later that year, I went from having almost like really being a social outcast to one day getting together with my four friends I had there, and I said, what do you say we start a social group? And we'll base that group on what I call non-plasticity, in other words, being honest in your relationships, what I call soul relationships, and so on. Well, within about 5 months, we had 21 people. But by the next year, we had 60 people in our group. So I grew from having 0 friends to a community of 60 people by honoring my dream. I never let that stop me. I never let my dream die. However, I was still terrified to tell anyone of my love of the sky. Why? Because I was so ruthlessly teased growing up. I had to hide it, like, you know, out of shame. And even though I had wonderful friends, and we get together, we hug each other, hello, we laugh, we had these great parties, we played all kinds of music at our parties. We didn't drink, we didn't do drugs. We listened to the Doors, and all those wonderful hippie songs, you know, and danced freeform dance, you know. No one taught us about it, we just did it. We had lots of fun. We punned, we cracked puns together, and we joked and do all kinds of crazy things. It was great. But I never told anybody how much I loved the sky. And I'll never forget, there was more than one day, I had a friend who was like a soul brother. I mean, this guy was, we'd be on the phone almost every night for an hour. And these are guys talking. You know, they say girls are like that. Well, this is 2 guys talking. We never ran out of things to talk about. So, but one day there was this incredible sunset. Oh my gosh, it was just unbelievable. And did I say anything when I got to his house? No. I finally admitted when I was 18 to a fellow college student that I loved thunderstorms, and that was a breakthrough. But did I ever let that stop my dream? No. I never let it stop my dream. I never gave up my dream. So, you fast forward a couple decades, and I started a storm chase tour company. So here's another life transformation point. From being ruthlessly teased for loving the sky, to putting out ads and having people from, well, my first client was from Michigan, and I was living in Dallas, saying, dude, I'm a storm chaser in Michigan, but I want to get some more experience. Can I come out and join you? He was my first client. I drove up to Omaha to meet him. We flew to Omaha, I drove up to Omaha, and we were on. And that was 1996. So, but in the meantime, I got Reuters News, and I started to show up in different other media. By 1998, I'll never forget, I had a day job, and I was home for lunch break, and my phone rings. Mr. Levine? Yeah, hi. It's CBS News. We hear they hear a storm chaser. We'd like to bring some equipment by and give you an interview so you'll be on the news tonight. Wow, can we do that? I'm like, yeah, cool, with the phone. Somebody else beeped in on my phone. I said, oh, can I put you on hold? Hello? Yeah, Mr. Levine, NBC News. Tom Brokaw. Okay, we'd like to have you on the news. Can we come by and interview you? I'm like, yeah, hold on, I got CBS on the other line. Now check this out. Being teased for my love of the sky to a few decades later,
being able to put CBS on hold.
CBS on hold, that's right. And I'll tell you, NBC came by first, and they had, my apartment was small, my living room was only a fraction the size of like the corner of that room. They had the whole room filled, equipment halfway up to the ceiling. They spent a half hour asking all kinds of questions, I'm like, this is cool, it's like, I'll turn on TV today. So I turned on TV, and my news story consisted of, I was on for a 20-second news bite. Basically, I was on, yeah, we chase tornadoes in our tour, but the first priority is safety. End of conversation.
Pretty much.
That was the end of the conversation, but I was on the TV. All right. And I ended up being in a newspaper in Spain. I had radio stations calling me at my home from Chicago, Phoenix, Japan. I talked to Tokyo, Japan radio. They interviewed me. And they were so kind as to actually give me a token of gratitude. They gave me this beautiful little fan, this colorful fan. No one else gave me anything, but they did. They were kind. So my point is that I always stay true to my dream. I never let my dream stop me. So another dream I had, I've always been a dreamer. I have something in Sagittarius in my astrology chart. They say Sagittarius has lofty goals and many dreams. Okay, that's part of me. So when I was 17, I declared my life mission. We're asking students to do that now. A lot of them are clueless. Well, when I was 17, I had a mission, and it's aligned with what you're up to. I said, Mother Earth has no voice. I'm going to be a voice for the Earth. And one of my dreams was to do a movie called Our Sacred World of Beauty about the beauty of the Earth and all the things on and around it and what we're doing to it. And it was going to be half and half. And one of the songs I wanted to have featured in there is a song by a guy named David Mason. Remember David Mason? Remember David Mason? He sang a song called You Shouldn't Have Took More Than You Gave. And that was going to be how we're trashing the Earth. Okay. But anyways, that was at 17. And what I learned very early on was if you make a dream happen, the universe is going to respond. So sure enough, within 3 years, I was nominated as the undergraduate representative to the University Energy Conservation Commission, along with all these administrators and maintenance people and everything else. But they knew that I was, out of 14,500 students, I was nominated. And I formed an environmental group. I got $2,000 university funding. In 1973, that was a lot of money. And we immediately got on campaigns. So the bottom line is, you make a dream, you stay true to it, and the universe responds. So eventually, one of the dreams I had didn't come through. You go for things, sometimes they don't happen. I wanted to become a key policymaker in the EPA, and I wanted to start with the Ohio EPA since I was in Ohio. And I had 2 or 3 interviews, and they hired somebody else. So I ended up being a sewer worker, being paid just enough that they couldn't qualify us for food stamps. So that's another story. But anyways, and I transformed that too. But anyways, after going through a number of careers in the environmental field, I realized that it's extremely political, and I can't eat that kind of crap. And after 4 years of working in a place where the boss said, Levine, the only reason why we have you here is federal regulations. He said that to me. After I came up with a housing action plan for the county to help people be more able to buy houses. Big, long project. I thought, you know what? I need to shift my goals. What can I do now? And make a long story short, I decided I still need to make a difference in the world. This time what I'm going to do is make a difference in people's lives. I want to help people heal. Does that sound familiar? I want to help people heal. I went to a seminar that you get to draw your feelings, dance your art, create a song about the dance, and give a presentation. I'm like, cool, I want to do that. That's exciting. I like this. This is fun. And it turns out there were 3 schools in the entire country that taught that, and I went to one of them and moved 1,200 miles and started a whole new life, a whole new thing. So ever since my late 20s, my commitment now has been to make a difference in people's lives. And that has continued to this day. What's that have to do with storm chasing? It's another passion of mine. I love both. I have to live with their storms. I cannot live. I feel like my soul is drying up if there's no thunderstorms. I absolutely feel like I'm going. I lived in California 5 years, and I withered. As beautiful as San Francisco is, I withered because there's almost never lightning in San Francisco. If there's lightning, it's a big deal. People go out of the stores and look. It's that big of a deal if there's lightning. So I have to live with that is. Now one of my goals is to inspire people through the beauty of to turn people on to the untamed magnificence of our sky. The sky is so magnificent. And the wild weather that happens from within is part of that. Also to assist people in understanding that the beauty you see in nature also exists from within you. If you can perceive and feel ecstasy in a beautiful sunset or a wonderful lightning show, you have those same energies inside yourself, and your job is to help recognize that and bring it out. And I think you've talked a little bit about that in your presentation. So that's one of the things I'm up to, is helping people do that. And I'm like, the little boy in me comes out when I'm filming and chasing and intercepting storms, along with the intrigued scientist. So you have this awestruck boy, a playful adult, and an intrigued scientist all coming together to experience the sky. So that's one of my realms. But along with that is a conversation, because a lot of times people ask me, well, you know what, Stephen? Why do you like storms? I mean, they can do damage. People die. What are you doing liking storms? I said, I'll tell you what, you like your car? 55,000 people are killed in these states every year by way of a car. Does that mean cars are bad? No. Number one. Number two, we build our structures as if nature does not exist. We think we're top dog. So we build buildings that are flimsy and blow apart as soon as the wind hits 80 miles an hour. We stick our buildings near creeks and rivers thinking that, hey, cool, we have a view, and we don't think of the fact that one night you might get 7 inches of rain, and there goes your house.
Not to mention soil erosion.
That's right. Yeah, so the other thing I was to mention, people build their houses on top of hilltops because they want to have a commanding view and pay top dollar. Guess what? When I went to school, there were about 4 hills right across from the campus, 4 houses that were coming down the hill. People build on the beach, and guess what? They expect a taxpayer to pay for their gambling and takes it back. So that's the other conversation I have with this. So it's all interrelated. Everything comes together. So what am I doing here at Richland College? Well, I want to help people. I want to help people heal. Back in the early days when I helped people heal, it was through the psychological and spiritual combination. So I did a lot of, I've had a private practice off and on in energy healing, and I did a lot of primal therapy myself in the early days, and prayer and all kinds of other mixes together. And then I began to help people through primal therapy. I actually had people pounding pillows and stuff like that when I worked with them. And then it evolved to where I was just doing subtle energy work and counseling. Well, I don't do that here. I can't do that here, but I do use the same tools. And my goal is to help someone. I want to help students succeed, and my coworkers, and my friends. So I'm their cheerleader. I like to cheerlead people. I like, okay, where's your breakthrough? Where's your victory? Where are you evolving to? And let me help cheer you along the way. And so that's one of the things that inspired me to form this visionary club. What inspire, how can I help inspire people to break through to where they want to go? And I was thinking of doing a club here, and I thought, okay, I can do a Storm Lovers Club or Visionary Club, but I can't do both. And I thought, how will I make the biggest difference to the most amount of people? And I thought, okay, probably a Visionary Club. There's probably a number of people who love storms. We can share pictures and videos and stuff every month, and maybe even go outside and watch when they happen. But there's also students who are struggling with manifesting a dream. And I think I can make a bigger difference doing that. So I'll continue to do my storm hunting in my own world. Everybody knows the advising center, I love wild weather. I'm the in-staff meteorologist. But here I'm going to make this club. So that's basically my vision. How have I made a difference? I've had students come up to me and say, you're the only one I've seen who's ever listened to me. Well, that feels good. I had a student yesterday. I went up to Denton because I had a student. She graduated a year and a half ago from here, and she's getting ready, well, maybe 2 years ago, she's getting ready to graduate from UNT, and she invited me to her art showing, and so I drove up to Denton yesterday morning to see her art. And she told me again yesterday, she said, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be where I am. I mean, when I hear stuff like that, it's awesome. And I know you've heard stuff like that. But that's, you know you're making a difference. And so that's why I'm here. It's certainly not for the money. They grossly underpay us. It's unbelievable how underpaid we are for what we do. But it is a work of love. So, in a nutshell, that's it. That's all, y'all. Any questions?
When you're talking, I have a sense that it's awe. The sky gives you an awe. It's just like for me, the mountains and ocean, I have this awe. And I'm just wondering if that's kind of what gets you through. In other words, you keep on that vision, no matter if people make fun, it doesn't matter because you're in this awe phase. I mean, is that your sense as well?
Yeah, actually, see, I had to hide when I was growing up. I created my own world of awe. Music and nature basically was it. And it was interesting because I attached music and nature together. So I can tell you a song that was popular in 1966, what the weather was like, and what I was doing. And so on, because of the awe that went through all of them, the right-left hemisphere union there.
That's what I mean.
So yeah, it's awe that's kept me through, and why I'm here in North Texas as opposed to San Francisco. When I first moved to San Francisco, it's so beautiful outside the city, the hills and the trees, and oh my gosh, I landed and I thought, oh my gosh, this is my home for the next 30 years. 5 years later, 30 years passed. Just nothing could make up for the lack of lightning in San Francisco. Nothing. I used to go to the ocean frequently, and even that couldn't do it for me. So yeah, it's the awe and wonder, and the magnificence. Thanks. Any other questions?
I like how you took something that you were particularly passionate about and that kind of ignited your soul, and you saw how you could take that down to its basic component and help other people find their own vision or never. You say multiple times, I never gave up my dream, I never gave up my dream. Helping other people never give up on their dream and realize how they can make their own stories come true with your experience too. I like how you see that and how you summed that all up.
Oh, thank you.
And personally, I'm also a fan of your advising, and it's nice when you get advisors who actually listen to you for a moment instead of just trying to sign stuff off and get you out of there.
Oh, thank you.
So.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When was the exact moment when, I don't know if you remember, I'll ask anyway. When was the exact moment when you realized, all this stuff going on in the sky, all this power, all this majesty, all this, magnificence, that's inside person? When did you first realize that?
That was a process. It really was. There was no aha on that one. There are ahas on many other things, but that came from my own spiritual journey, where I lived in New England for 11 years, and the climate up there is so in opposition to what works inside of me.
Yeah.
And so what I had to learn to do is I had to learn to, if I was missing something and yearning for it, like black locust blossoms or humid, warm nights, I can go out and just feel the air and feel soft, then I had to say, what quality inside of me am I yearning for that's missing out there? And how do I get in touch with that? So that process started back in the early, probably in the early 90s, somewhere in the 80s. And I grew with it. And it was driven home when I met the lady who I later married, my wife, because she kept reminding me, remember, you love this stuff in the sky, but this is you too. And I'm like, well, that's true.
Was it like meeting the thunder cloud in human form?
Not so much that. You mean was meeting her, meeting the thunder cloud?
Yeah.
No, it would be like, however, there are certain metaphors I have for thunderstorms that are awesome, that meet that. To me, I can say that, back to summarize it, when I first started my storm chase tour company in the 90s, my initial motto I wanted to use, so I realized I had to make it family friendly, is good storms are like hot sex. The louder the better, as long as it's safe. Well, I realized I had to change it to good storms are like sex, not romance, not hot sex. You know, I got to leave something to imagination, you know. And when there's kids involved, I simply say the louder the better, as long as it's safe. But that's the metaphor, my friend. That's the metaphor. And when I'm in the heart of a thunderstorm, when I'm approaching a thunderhead, it's like the courtship, you know, you're courting, it's like foreplay. You're going for it. Seriously, I realized that when I first started chasing. But I realized that. And then when I'm in it, the car is rocking, you know, the water is slashing all over, and the car is shaking, and the thunder booms, and the lightning bolts are coming. It's orgy time. It's like orgasm. It's there. And then the storm ends, right? The storm's over. It's finished. And guess what? The air is soft and sweet and all cuddly and, oh man, and moist. It's like, wow. Do we want to do another one? If I want to do another one, I'm going to go chase again and go on the front of it to watch it come through one more time. Okay, it's another climax for me. Perfect metaphor. So there is some metaphor going on. Okay? And actually, what I learned through my wife is, has everybody seen the movie Powder? Oh, Powder's
been a long time.
It's about an ET who comes to Earth and yearns for electric energy. He sucks it into his chest energy. His thymus area basically activates his whole energy field. Guess what? I was shocked when I saw the movie because that's what I do. When I see a thunderstorm, I can see a thunderhead about 70 miles away and pull in the electromagnetic energy, and it energizes me. But if I've been in a good lightning storm, my wife will hug me and she goes, I feel the lightning in you. She actually feels the charge in my chest after I've seen a good lightning storm. The bigger the lightning storm, the more charge she feels in my chest. It actually energizes my system. It's like soul food for me, and actually energizes my system. And so last night was just magnanimous because I was in a lightning storm. I was in it. I didn't just see it, I was in it. And the thunderheads were just magnificent. And so I was psyched. I had trouble falling asleep, you know. It's like, and so did she actually. It was just really, and I was inspired today, in spite of the fact I didn't have enough sleep. It was an inspiration. So, and it carried me through the disappointment of what happened this afternoon. Well, you know, we just had a few rumbles and a couple of flashes and didn't even wet the sidewalk, really. I never figured all this stuff. So, anyways, so that's the answer, long-winded. But I have a precise memory of when I declared both visions of making being a voice for the earth and also making a difference in people's lives. I can tell you where I was and what was going on precisely. When I was 17 and when I was in my 20s, I was 28, I think, when I had the shift to the other vision. I can tell you precisely about that. Absolutely. Any other questions?
It's just another thing I like, but I like how that quote at the end of that all beauty you say in nature lies in you, and it's cool you say you found that through spiritual processes, because like I'm in like 3 personal development practices, and each one says something similar. It says the same, basically the same thing.
Cool.
I mean, first of all, there's all these things sometimes we project how we're feeling out into the world, or, you know, we see something not actually as it is, but through what's inside us. And conversely, we can kind of also get this beauty from something. And if we can realize the connection and not like be, you know, not be, what's the word, relying on the outside things, but actually realizing that we're connecting with it, then I
That's
think,
it, there's a distinction,
yeah.
a very powerful distinction.
There's a big distinction between like thinking we have to have it, but knowing we have power inside ourselves, like you said, well, what else am I needing? But also knowing our values and knowing our loves and our uniqueness, our essence. So I think that's awesome. That's so cool.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Very good.
Is that the timer?
Any other
That was
questions?
30 minutes.
Any other questions or comments? Awesome. Or as we used to say in the 60s, groovy, man.
My
I've
dad-
had students ask me, seriously, I've had a number of students say, were you a hippie?
My dad is a hippie.
And I guess I practiced the values, but unlike